to Miguel because Reagan was talking a lot about, the U.S. hegemony, the difficulty of reporting on climate change. Now, I know you work on climate issues, but before I ask you to sort of introduce our audience to what's happening in Argentina, I also want you to introduce your president and what he stands for and give these guys an idea of what it's like on the other side.
Nightmare. Okay, hello. It's my first time in Pakistan. I am really happy to be here. I must say that my English is not as well as my colleagues, so I will do my best. I hope you understand my comments. I have a lot of questions. I don't know if I have any answers. I am in a moment of my life that I have more questions than answers, and I think more than ever we need to make new and more questions, because if not, we are going to keep doing the same that in the last years. But answering to your question, my first answer is it's quite a nightmare. In terms of climate change, our president in Argentina in Latin America, South America, champions of the world in football. Perhaps you know, we love football, so that's why we love Messi and all the team. Yes, of course. Of course. Thank you, Argentina. But talking about the president, our president denies climate change. So imagine how it's the context in terms we are going again in a basic discussion and conversation in terms of, hey, climate change exists. This is not the first time in planet Earth. We have been talking about that yesterday. Perhaps later you can deep into that. But it's the first time that the human being makes all these crises. And in Argentina, our president says, hey, this is a lie from socialists and communists and the left-wing parties. So we are facing that. Of course, that with this context, it's quite difficult to push climate action, to push climate policies, and to have money, budget, for these kind of policies in Argentina. We are one of the biggest countries in the region, one of the biggest economies, and this is part of our context. In terms of the impacts of climate change in the region, we are having floods, as here in Pakistan. For example, here in Argentina in March, we have a big flood. Many people die because of that. We have droughts, we have heat waves, we have wildfires, and many other examples we are facing. And also internal migration inside different countries because of climate change. And in terms of some facts and information about the region, we have more than 40% of the world species in terms of biodiversity. So Latin American and Caribbean region is really important in terms of biodiversity, and we need to have this conversation because in terms of climate change, of course, it's important to have this in mind. I know I have to close. I'm going to be really quick. In Argentina in 2022-2023, we have the worst drought in 60 years. And that affects a lot of our economy because our economy depends a lot in terms of the field and what happens outside the main cities in Argentina. And we are facing this basic conversation of explaining that climate change is a fact that we are facing in Argentina, that thousands of people in March in many cities of the country were forced to leave their houses because of this. And these kind of floods never happened before in Argentina. So imagine our frustration, as our colleague has just said, that we are having this kind of conversation. So basic, so easy, and so stupid in some way. Sorry my word, but I am from Argentina. We speak in this way. I am really worried, and I close with this, that I think we are not having enough conversations inside the Global South. I think these kind of spaces are really important, but I think we need to deep into conversations inside the Global South because we have similar pasts, similar context, and similar problems in terms of poverty, hunger, and many other reasons. We have to deep into examples, solutions, and good examples we have. But we need more than ever to share between us. I close with that.
I appreciate. Majal, I'm so fascinated by your president. I have one more
Not
question.
myself.
I want to know what the political benefits are to being a climate denier.
Being a friend of Donald Trump, perhaps, for example. They have been together 2 weeks ago, so that's part of our context. Because, and you give me the point, we are the main debtor of the International Monetary Fund, Argentina. So with that context, with that economical and financial crisis, of course it's more and more harder to speak about climate action, climate adaptation, and a lot of policies that they need money. The money we don't have, because the International Monetary Fund is asking every year, since I am a child, for money because we have to pay to them. If we have to pay to them, I put the question on the table, at least. Because that's part of the situation for many countries in the global south.
That's right.
So part of my points, I know we are short of time, so I'm gonna make some bullet points, let's say. Latin American region, we are responsible for less than 8% of the global greenhouse emissions. We are more than 30 countries, less than 8%. So imagine that, and we are facing a lot of impacts because of climate change. In another hand, and we have been talking about this before the panel, I am really worried about the lack of democracy we are having. Many politicians and many trends in terms of authoritarian political leaders that are in different countries of Latin American region. For example, in El Salvador, Nicaragua, Venezuela, Argentina, and Peru, many others. I know that perhaps it's the first time you hear about these countries, and it's okay, but I think it's important to put it on the table because this lack of democracy we are having, I think it's not only in Latin America region, I think it's all over the world, and we have to talk about that, because if not, it's impossible to talk about climate justice. We need to talk about the lack of democracy and what is going on in basic terms in all over the world, and mainly, and I finish with this, I want to deep into South-South cooperation because we are not having enough conversation of what are we going to do, because if we see, for example, the process of COP, of climate change, climate conference, we are not having enough and good results from there. So what are we going to do? We are going to keep waiting results from COP30, for example? I mean, I have some hope, but I don't want to put all my hope in COP30 and this kind of process. And we have to build our hope between people.
I appreciate your point about democracy, because we live in a region where we're losing 8 to 10 years of our life because of air pollution. And it's staggering that air pollution was not discussed during the 2023 elections in Punjab. This was a province where during the caretaker setup of the winter of 2023, over 500 children in Punjab alone died of pneumonia, which is a respiratory illness exacerbated by air pollution. And yet we don't talk about this because of the disruptions in our democracy, that interventions in our democracy. Sir, please, our guests have come from abroad. I really want to give them an opportunity to speak. I'm also limited by time, but I have a solution for you, sir. I do. I promise. I've taken your point.